والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and a very good morning. Greetings to each and every one of you. Welcome to International Institute of Advanced Islamic Studies Malaysia, Islamic Educational Talk for 2022. I am Dr. Nurain Norman, the MC, the moderator for this event. And on behalf of the organizing committee, we extend our appreciation for your presence today. And we would also like to thank IQRA Musleh for co-organizing the program for today, and especially to Dr. Megat Muhammad Amin, the Executive Director of IQRA Musleh Malaysia. So without further ado, I would like to give the introduction for the program today. The International Quality Range Assessment for Islamic Education, IQRA, was developed in 2017 and is currently an ongoing project. It is designed to assess the extent to which students at the end of the compulsory education progress have achieved the expected educational outcomes in terms of applying their knowledge to real life situations and being equipped with the necessary knowledge and skills to function well in society. Through IQRA's 11 constructs, human development based on Islamic ideals is given center stage in the Islamic education system. Consequently, any neglected aspects of the student's character can be addressed by teachers, parents, and the students themselves. This comprehensive assessment framework is an attempt to mainstream outcome-based education into the Islamic education system. Dr. Khuduri Ahmad we have today is a special guest from IQRA Musleh. He's also the president of Gabungan Persatuan Pendidikan Malaysia, Pendidikan Islam Malaysia GAPIM, and he obtained his bachelor degree in education in 1984 and master's in education in 1986, both from the University of Toledo, Ohio, USA. Later, he obtained his doctorate degree in the field of educational testing and measurement from the University of Sussex and has been involved in this area for more than 40 years. He started his career as a trainer and a teacher before he joined Malaysian Examination Syndicate MES in 1977. In MES, he had been a test developer, the chief assistant director, the head of sector, and retired as the deputy director production of MES. His expertise and experience has given him the opportunity to be a leader in various developments in this field. And the projects under his leadership and his most significant contributions to the Malaysian educational assessments are the designs of various types of conventional and alternative assessments used in the national examinations system, memasyarakatkan pentaksiran, humanizing assessment, the P model for quality assurance and school-based assessment, and many more. With FELDA Transformation Department, he designed and developed FTL, which is FELDA Transformational Learning and Alternative Education for the Underachievers. His main academic and personal interests are the integration of holistic and integrated assessment in teaching and learning. He is now a leading national project alternate assessment known as PASM, Pentaksiran Alternate Sekolah Menengah, for special students with learning disability, and international project for measuring the CUMNIS IQRA, International Quality Range Assessment. Without further ado, we call Dr. Khuduri Ahmad for presenting his topic for today.
Assalamualaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin wa bihi nasta'in. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asrafil mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Thank you, Dr. Nurain. Thank you for the introduction. It made me even more nervous. Alhamdulillah, may Allah give me strength, ya Allah. Thank you. IAIS for giving me this opportunity. And of course, thank you, IQRA Musli, and opportunity in IETS, to take part in IETS. Indeed, it is, of course, too big a platform for me to share just small things in education. And I know very well that I'm not the best person about to talk about IQRA, but let me try my best anyway. When I was small, Dr. Nurul, my mother taught me how to use mirror when combing my hair. Not in other occasion. That moment gave me the opportunity to know myself. I can describe myself better based on what I have seen in the mirror, how I look like. Then my father sent me to school to be a better person. But year after year, I still the same person in the mirror, just getting bigger and bigger, of course. Shamefully, I wasn't a good student in school. My exam results were very bad. At Darjah 4, year 4, I decided to run away from school. Shame on me. Because simply I couldn't see any point going to school. At that time, munching or fishing ikan keli, ikan ruan is much better and more fulfilling. Gitulah. So to cut a long and sad story short, maybe if somebody came to me and tell me about what is this better person all about in terms of becomingness, or ask me to take part in IQRA, then it was in 1960s, it can stop me from running away from schools. So Dr. Nurul Ain, what is this becomingness all about, and what is IQRA? That's exactly what I intend to share today. It all started when Ustad Megat Muhammad Amin, my good friend from IQRA Musli, invited me. Me at the time was a retired assessment worker who decided to be a farmer in Tanjung Karang. Okay. I was invited to join the group called Unit R&D and build Islamic PISA, Program International Student Assessment. Well, after many discussion, as you introduced just now in 2017, the group approved the new name for the Islamic PISA, which is IQRA. Just like you, I used to say IQRA, but I was reminded that just say IQRA, not IQRA, they say IQRA, the International Quality Range Assessment. It is as you mentioned just now, it is intended as the outcome of Islamic education instead of the output, not the output. We strongly believe that exam results is the indicator of output of education, not the outcome of education. We agreed on that. And the outcomes of education deals with what our children or our learner become, what they become, learning to become. So what they become is the outcomes of education. What they get in the examination, they are grades in mathematics or English or Bahasa Arab. So those are the indicator of the output of education. So the focus will not stop on the grade they get, but also what sort of human being they become. So from here, my boss, we have been in this session, Professor Azlan, Dr. Azlan Ahmad Zanzali, love to use the term becomingness or kemenjadian. Well, we learn a lot from him. He always stressed that becomingness as the outcomes of Islamic education. The outcome of Islamic education would be individuals imbued with the characteristics much loved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So slowly we go to that. So of course, it's a very, very important aspect of education. But Dr. Nurul Ain, so far, these have been either taken for granted or neglected or forgotten. We focus so much on the exam result. When we send our kids to school, we prepare them to sit for the exam, and we are happy if they get all A's. We are very sad if they get all D's. So we forget, we neglect, or we take for granted this is a very important thing, which is the becomingness. So the question at that time, what are those? What are those, the quality called becomingness? What are those becomingness which had been taken for granted? Our focus now is on how we, this group, conceptualize, design, and develop IQRA. And then the topic of today's presentation is International Quality Range Assessment as the holistic and integrated assessment for Insan Rabbani. Okay, Dr. Ain, I will address this topic as an assessment worker, not as a professor. So I'm sorry, it's not the level that you expect. Okay.
Dr. Hudiri,
Yes.
would you like to share something? Share screen?
Good. Now I think it's time for me to start sharing this. Thank you. So the first step in conceptualizing, as I told you, we conceptualize, we design, and we develop. The first step in conceptualizing in assessment practice is setting the goal and then the identification of construct. This is what the assessment worker did all the time when dealing with development of an instrument. The goal is very clear, which is to provide the holistic and integrated assessment for the outcome of Islamic education. This is the thing. And then came the very, very important question. What is the desired educational outcome of Islamic education? In this context, in our group, Professor Ustad Dr. Ajmain Safar from UTM took the lead. The effort of determining or identifying the characteristic of much loved by Allah in the Al-Quran. Yes, we started our journey from Az-Zariyat 51, and I did not create the jinn and mankind except to worship me. Az-Zariyat 56. So the question is, we have to create human being. We have to invite our children, our learner, to worship Allah as a result of education. So again, from there, Professor Ajmain guide us to a very important statement, which is by Prophet when Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam responded to a group of when he was asked that whether he invited Jews and Christians to become Muslim, they asked, "Oh Muhammad, are we invited to worship you as in Christianity who worship Jesus?" This is a very important statement. The Prophet responded, "We seek refuge in Allah from this attitude. Na'udzubillahi min zalik, to worship other than Allah or to worship other than Him. I was not sent for that, nor is it commanded to do so." So to continue again. So to come down to verse 79 in Surah Ali Imran, and you can find the word kunu Rabbaniyin. So the verse clearly shows that the Prophet, peace be upon him, conveying the relation to his people to guide them to become Rabbani generation from among Sahabat. So from there, Insan Rabbani is the desired outcome of Islamic education then. We decided that. And accordingly, the goal of International Quality Range Assessment, IQRA, is to become the holistic and integrated assessment for Insan Rabbani. Then came the question number 2. In the conceptualization process, which is the construct to be measured or to be assessed in IQRA, because we believe that if you are not sure or not clear on the constructs you are assessing or you intend to assess, you may end up with assessing nothing. So we may end up with assessing nothing. So from there, we analyze, and from our analysis, we came up with this. It was indeed a long process. Again, the long story short. To make the long story short, we end up with 11 constructs as shown on the screen. By assessing those constructs, we can help the children to see themselves holistically. We believe so. All right. So by assessing those constructs, let me repeat, we can help the children to see themselves holistically and in an integrated manner as Insan Rabbani. So when they see themselves in the mirror, not only they can see physically, but they also can see all this measured. So done with the second important question in conceptualization. So now we know the goals and we have all the constructs. Next, we were happy with the 11 construct. We were comfortable with the 11 construct as character traits. Then we move to the second stage of the development process, which is designing. The first is conceptualizing, and the second is designing. So that 11 construct, for me, believe that these are important virtues that promotes good behavior for us. And this character trait defines who they are as people and highly influence the choice they make in their lives. Okay? And the second one is designing. First is to set the boundary. And designing, what we did was to set the boundary or the daerah of IQRA. Okay, after long discussion, again, of course, there were many long discussions in the process of developing IQRA. We agreed on 5 contexts, namely as self, family, society, national, and global. So from there, we created the boundary, the so-called the boundary of IQRA, from which sameness of item can be realized. The construct versus context, 11 construct and 5 context. So based on this decision, JSU, we call it JSU, Jadwal Spesifikasi Ujian, or the blueprint of IQRA can be developed based on this construct versus context. Then inside we develop the items. Then can be a representation of the so-called holistic and integrated quality of Insan Rabbani. Okay, let's move on. Then came the second questions of designing stage. After conceptualization, we design, and the design first we set the daerah or the region, and then it came the second question of the design. What type of instrument to be used? The concern of the group was on 3 basic assessment factors. 1, observable. 2, measurable. And 3, manageable. In the sense that in a short period of time, say in 1 hour, we can show the quality of the one took part or take part in the survey. And we decided IQRA is designed as a survey that can be administered at any time to any target, individuals or group of students at certain level based on design. And for your information, we started with students at the age of 16. That's how we start. We start at that. But there's also suggestion from here and there. Try to pull IQRA to primary level. We are considering it. And here, I think I have to mention this. This group is a very dynamic group. We started with 2 parts of IQRA. Part 1, we have a demographic items, and part 2 contains AOT items. I will address AOTI items later. Well, if you all can see on the diagram, in less than 5 years, we moved from IQRA 1 to IQRA 2. IQRA 1, we use 100 items, which is 10 items per construct. We use 100 items. But, 100 items, we found out is a bit too long for a survey. It's a bit too long because we are using objective multiple choice, 4 choice, multiple choice, dichotomous. So it is too long. Which the assessees, the one who took part in the survey, tend to lose attention at the later part of the instrument. It is not good for reliability and validity indeed. We realize that. So we tried with a shorter version of instrument with 55 items, 5 items for each construct. Well, we tried partial credit instead of dichotomous. So our study shows that there was no significant difference. Then we came up with IQRA 2.0, graded objective, multiple choice with partial credit. So that's how that sort of instrument we use. Okay, let me move on. So a bit about AOT items. When you talk about AOT item, we realize that IQRA is a survey and not achievement test. It is not achievement test. It is not the test that you need to study a subject and at the end of the process you sit for the test. Not that way. So IQRA is a survey. So you don't have to study. It's not related to any curriculum. So action-oriented thinking item. The idea behind of AOT is everyone will have their own reaction. Everyone will have their own reaction and response when dealing with a situation. The spontaneous reaction and response symbolize their stand on the situation. Their standpoint will form through the internalization process as a result of the education process. Issues and choice of reaction to the issues is being produced by them by means of the multiple choice item approach. So this is the idea behind AOT. So when we give 5 AOT items, we believe that we can see the dimension of a learner or whoever took part in that IQRA survey in that very construct. So after attending 55 items, and we can see their dimension. Okay. So the third question in designing an assessment instrument is how we report it, how we communicate the result. So we decided that the easy to understand situation, fast and easy to understand situation, not in grade A or grade B, not using graded A or B, 1 or 2, but to communicate IQRA assessment results to students or to any group in an easy to understand situation, the spider web graphic approach is used. Indicator of becomingness for each of the construct assessed. Okay, then as mentioned in earlier part of my presentation, we are talking about holistic and integrated. IQRA as a holistic and integrated assessment for Insan Rabbani. So we have to address how do you show holisticness, how do you show integratedness. First, we start with the holistic indicator. So this is the holistic indicator. So we can see that this dot on the spider web, or the red dot on the spider web, are the position of an individuals or groups for each of the construct. For each of the construct. Looking at all dots, then you can describe yourself or group position holistically as Insan Rabbani. High and low degree of becomingness can be seen from the graph. Okay, as you see from the graph, then you can see that looking at the graph, for example, high degree of becomingness in this, in terms of competent leadership and management and through Aqidah. That's high degree of becomingness. Number 9, for example, is quite high. Number 4, it is quite high. You know, it started from the middle, going outside to become higher and higher. Whereas for correct worship and physical vigor is quite a low degree of becomingness. It's number 1 and number 5. However, by looking on the 11 dots, it is already portrayed that you have a holistic measure as Insan Rabbani, because you can see your measure or your assessment indicator for each of the construct measure. Now, how about number 2? That is you. The diagram describes your range of quality as Insan Rabbani. The diagram can show you that, from which you know what to address in order to become a better person. Yeah, this is the very idea, the very reason why my father sent me to school, to be a better person, which ended up with me running away from school because I could not see them. I could not see me becoming a better person. Well, Madam Moderator, by responding to AUTI 55 items in less than 1 hour or 1 hour, IQRA Muslim will help you to know yourself better. This macam iklan aja ni, in a more complete manner. You can see yourself in the mirror, not only your face, your nose, but you can see, oh, this is Insan Rabbani with this dimension. Hopefully. Now, how then we define holistic and integrated in our diagram? So I've told you the indicator of becomingness. So we say that a complete indicator of becomingness represents the holistic development of the individual or group. So the shape formed by joining all the dots, this is the second approach, which is the second, the field of becomingness. The first one is the indicator of becomingness, and the second is the field of becomingness. The field of becomingness is an integrated becomingness of the individual or group. The field of becomingness will show the quality of becomingness in terms of its balance and harmony aspect. Let us see. Now, Okay, when you join and you share that, the green one is actually the field of becomingness, showing the integratedness, the degree of integratedness in the becomingness. All right. Okay. Take for example this one. Okay. Stability of development as Insan Rabbani. This example show less stability. As such, information from the survey can be used or referred by parents, by teachers, and by the learner themselves to set strategy to make him or her a better insan, a better insan Rabbani, a well-balanced and harmony insan Rabbani. He may have to address with the help of course, parents, teachers, the construct number 9, 10, 11, 1, and 2. If you can improve that, obviously, you can be a better person. Of course. So the indicator of the field of becomingness from IQRA can help all our learners to become a better person. That's our dream. And the end of the day, to become a good or a better Insan Rabbani. Let's take a look at the second example. This one. All right, this is another example of a holistic but not integrated, for example, less integrated. He or she has all the quality of Insan Rabbani, of course. He has all the quality of Insan Rabbani 1 to 11. He has been seen. We have tracked this. But however, how good if we can help him to become even better person to improve his integratedness, make him more balanced and harmony in his chapter, trade as Insan Rabbani. This is the concern that we put our effort, we try to, from time to time, to get a better instrument, so that in, say, by just 1 hour out of 15 years in his school, he can see himself or herself as an Insan Rabbani. Okay, now as an instructor, of course, if you see yourself in that region, in that area, not big enough, and you work very hard through intervention program, you can change the shape. You can change the shape, you can change the size as a result of education, of course. So the indication of becomingness then represent human development, of course. This can be realized by integrating technology to assessment practice. Now is the 21st century. We may take time if you say sit on paper and then we mark and then get the results. But now IQRA Musli has developed using technology. IQRA can be a friendly online assessment formative instrument for the development of Insan Rabbani. And we believe that this diagram, this simple diagram, can be a good help, can show you how you can be a better person. There's one more, a very important. The idea of having, as I mentioned earlier, Islamic PISA came from when a group of educators, international Islamic educators, sat down and they start thinking, how can all of us work together to improve Islamic education? How can we work together? But it is going to be simple if we can have indicator, the so-called, if we can have universal indicator. So this universal indicator can come from the IQRA. Say a number of countries like Brunei, Australia, Singapore, and Malaysia, referring to their diagram of the IQRA, then we can sit down. We can sit down in a collaborative manner, then we can improve our education, our Islamic education system. All right. So that's Coming to the end, but before I stop, can you just imagine just 1 hour to make a difference? You have to let us, IQRA Muslim, to help you to set yourself in a holistic and integrated manner as Insan Rabbani. To see yourself in a holistic and integrated manner as Insan Rabbani. How? Just take part in the survey. Okay, with IQRA, they know themselves better. With IQRA, inshallah, after taking 1 hour of their time, take part in IQRA survey, our children will see themselves better in the mirror, better than myself in the mirror. Not only their physical dimension, but also their becomingness, which has been taken for granted or forgotten so far, from which they can pave the way. They can pave the way of improving themselves as Insan Rabbani, fulfilling the ayat of وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, with the help of their peers, with the help of their teachers, with the help of their parents, inshallah. Madam Moderator, thank you very much. Jazakumullah khairan. Jazak.
Thank you very, very much, Dr. Khudri Ahmad, for the very wonderful presentation. And now it is very clear what is it all about, the International Quality Range Assessment, which is called IQRA, and what is the holistic and integrated assessment for Insan Rabbani. So designing an independent PISA is surely not an easy job. It is a great long-term project of experts in different fields, especially Dr. Azlan and Dr. Khudri Ahmad and all from the IQRA Muslim. And IQRA Muslim has shown that it is successful, and we should not only rely what is given by the international standards, because we have our own Islamic objectives and assessment, and it is very integral. And these assessments is very integral in the implementation of Islamic curriculum. And okay, now if we have any questions from, we'll see, from Zoom or from Facebook. Do we have any questions? Okay, if there's not, we will wait for some questions here. But Dr. Khudri Ahmad, I would like to know that how are the indicators, these holistic indicators, are chosen to be holistic indicators, part of the IQRA?
Thank you very much. Very good questions. And of course, when we sat down, a group of us sat down, we refer to a number of papers, and of course, we refer to Al-Quran Al-Karim and Hadith, led by, as I tell you, Professors Dr. Ajma'in Safar, who has been working a lot on that area, the issue of becomingness, what we become after sending, after being educated. Now, the issue, Doctor, is we want to avoid schooling without educating. We don't want just send our kid to school, teach them subject, sit for the exam, and that's all. So that's what we call schooling. But what are we educating? So when we talk about the education, we must focus on two things, which is the effectiveness, but that's not enough, and the meaningfulness. So the effectiveness of education can be assessed by maybe giving them the exam question through the QRSG approach: question, respond, score, grade. So at the end, you may end up with grade A or grade C or grade D. But that is the outcomes of education. The more challenging things is when we send our kids to schools is actually what they will become. by sending them to schools. So this is, as I mentioned just now, I think it's taken for granted so far. We did not really focus on this. So to identify what they want to become, with the guidance from Professor Ustad Dr. Ajmain, we sat down, we referred to a number of texts here and there. So we resolved to Insan Rabbani, and what are the characteristics of Insan Rabbani? And then we take off these 11, I think, most important characteristic of Insan Rabbani, and we converted. We decide this as the construct. So this is the indicator. So if you have all those construct in you, and we measure how the dimension of that construct, and that's you instead of becoming Insan Rabbani. So that's the indicator. We decide that to become the indicator. So again, questions, we refer to Al-Quran, to Hadith, and a number of course, writing to finally decide, yeah, this is the construct, and therefore these are the indicators of Insan Rabbani. I hope I answer your questions.
Yes, it's very good. Yeah, the Insan Rabbani, the concept of Insan Rabbani shows that we are heading to Rabb. We're heading to God, and this is different from the international standards where they build upon a materialistic person. Correct. So we are moving towards a person who is near to God, who is showing what are the characteristics of good Muslims. Okay, we have several questions here. First, do you think our educational syllabus in our schools nowadays are becoming more complex and challenging for students, that the KBAT questions become almost impossible to answer even by teachers and parents themselves?
This is a very good question then. Okay. When you talk about KBAT, which is kemahiran berpikir aras tinggi, the word aras tinggi, then that is the opportunity for the students to use what they have learned in school to tackle the situation outside in their future endeavor. We have to see it that way. It is impossible to use or to teach Kabat in schools. You teach subject in schools, then you teach how to think using that subject, how to apply what you have learned in school, and then not only how to apply, how to create something which is going beyond. So then, yes, Kabat is very important for me. Kabat is very important, especially for the 21st century. It's very important. You cannot just focus on what you learn in school and then you put that in the exam question, which is orang kata just muntahkan what you have learned. But you have to be trained in school to use what you have learned to solve many questions, which maybe now we still don't have that problems, but we have to train them to solve that problem through Kaban. So the focus on Kaban must be on developing the most important skill for the 21st century. But if you focus on teaching Kaban and testing Kaban based on what you thought, and then I'm afraid our success will be very limited. Okay, the concern on complex, the question on complex, whether it become more complex or not, I think our education, pendidikan kita, must be suitable to their time. Pendidikan mesti sesuai dengan zaman orang yang dididik. Zaman orang yang dididik, their times, not our times. And it is demanded that our children to become competitive in their future, they must be good in the Kabat. So we must train them to have kabat in them. We have to instill kabat in them. But our attitude toward kabat must be different from the attitude towards preparing them for the exam. The kabat aspect in the exam can be the one is to be measured, or one is integrated in the item to measure what is supposed to be measured. There are two approach in integrating kabat in our exam. First, kabat as the one to be measured. Two, use kabat in the question in measuring what to be measured. But kabat is the situation. Kabat is the requirement for the 21st century. So don't run away from kabat. So my advice is that don't see kabat as complexity, but please see kabat as a necessity. Thank you.
Very, very good point you're saying. I agree with you, Dr. Khuduri. But most of us, they stress too much on kebat, on the skill, and they lose the content, the real content of knowledge. I think Dr. Amin Magat, he raised his hand. Do you have something to say, Dr. Amin?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. Actually, I have written the question in the chat, but let me just say it that Jazakallah khair, Dr. Khudari, for the presentation. Perhaps some of our audience would like to understand, particularly about the difference between the concept of achievement test as compared to the concept of becomingness survey. What is the difference, and why is it so significant to have the becomingness survey instead of the achievement test?
Oh, thank you very much, Ustaz Magat. Ya Allah, how to answer your question? This is a very difficult question to answer. Then, thank you very much for reminding me to talk about this. We have been very familiar with the achievement test. For more than 60 years, our focus is on the achievement test. The SPM, the UPSR, those are achievement tests. So the results of those exams are the result of achievement test. So achievement test, when talking about the achievement test, it is the test of it is the off learning kind of test. That means you have to learn all those are going to be tested first, and the end of the process you will be tested based on what you have learned. So the result of this achievement test, the result of the achievement test is actually showing how good you are in learning of those subjects. So that the dimension of the result of the achievement test normally is in terms of what you are learning, the subject you are learning. For example, mathematics, you get an A. Bahasa Arab, you get Mumtaz. All this, and then English, you got a B. These are all the achievement tests. An achievement test, normally, the results of achievement test is given in terms of comparing, is a relative dimension to show that the A is actually better than B and C is better than D. And it's surface that show you the achievement. In a group, how good you are. In the achievement, if you get an A, then you are the good group. If you get C, then accordingly. You can understand that is the achievement. We are very familiar. We used to this achievement test. Okay, good. But the survey is, suppose a survey may ask you, what is your name? Do you have to learn all this? How many children you have, or how many brothers and sisters you have? These are survey questions. Accordingly, IQRA is a survey assessment. Example, there's one item. 5 minutes before Azan, your friend asks you to join them to play futsal. What will be your reaction? Now, you don't have to specifically study to answer that questions, but based on the education in schools, we believe that you can choose what would be the best response to your friend. These kind of questions, survey question, will show you instead of your achievement, but your becomingness, what you become after being educated for say 11 years, your stand, your attitude. Actually, your attitude is based on the knowledge and the ilmu, the amal, and the adab instilled in you in the process of education. So, of course, that is different of achievement and survey. Again, Ustaz Magad, we design IQRA as a survey instrument and not an achievement test. So don't worry outside there. Don't worry. Don't worry. Hey, how can we have to be given the time to study for IQRA? No, no, you don't have to study hard to sit for IQRA, because IQRA is a survey instrument. It is not an achievement test. Okay, I hope I can make myself clear, Ustaz Magad. Thank you very much.
Jazakallah khair.
Okay, we have some other questions here from Dr. Malik Bennett. Shouldn't the 11 categories in question be defined with some precision for several reasons, namely precise teaching, refining, reflexive assessment, and upgrading?
Wow, wow, wow. Well, that's a very, very good question indeed. Yeah. But not as a subject. You can implant that in many subjects, in many contexts, in many modules. You don't have to have a program specifically for certain construct, but you can have program which can instill many or a number of construct, so that we can use the program as the construct and as a context, and the construct and those quality we identify as the construct as the thing that we want to develop through teaching all those subjects. I tend to agree with you. We have to really address, we have to really understand this, but we are not going to have subject teaching each of the construct, each of the 11. We can still have the same subject. We can still have Bahasa Arab, we can still have English, we can still have mathematics, but we can instill all those ilmu amal adab to build a person with a good spirit through the teaching of mathematics. So as a result, not only their result in the achievement of mathematics, but also the becomingness as a teaching of mathematics at the end of the process, they can become, of course, a better person. Yeah, of course. Thank you very much. After knowing that I'm low in certain construct, of course, I have to address it. And where can I improve my construct in, say, in exalted character? If I get low in that, what I'm supposed to do, where can I get it, but not in the subject of exalted character, not in the subject of benevolent to all. Benevolent to all can be instilled in a number of subjects. All right. I hope I can make myself clear.
MashaAllah, very, very, very good. Very detailed answer. Okay, we have from Arif Hidayat Ali, can becomingness be seen from the Aristotelian concept of potentiality?
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful
Little bit
question.
philosophic.
When we are talking about the Aristotelian, run away from the Plato, and we can see the Aristotle. But again, if you go back to Plato and Aristotle, again, the focus is not the subject. The focus is on human, to make human better. And of course, if you can really see and read between line on the Aristotelian approach, or even the later theory of education, again, all the theory of education, the focus is on improving human being. The only way is along the line, maybe because of the importance of the exam result, somehow or other we slipped from this. Our focus, the so-called the desired outcomes of education lost along the way. So again, this is a very good opportunity, Dr. Ain. This is a good opportunity for us just by taking part 1 hour sitting for the IQRA. You can realize yourself, you can realize how good you are in educating your children, not just in teaching them subject to prepare them for the exam. So hopefully, whatever theory, if we can see, the focus is still improving human being. There's no theory in just teaching subject. I think more and more difficult question. Further, susah nak address ni.
Okay. There is one from Siti Hawa Ali. The content of a conceptual framework and assessment seems to be parallel to international education curriculum. However, the question left is how to facilitate the content in assessment given the lack of supporting infrastructure, physical and social, in many Islamic-based schools in our country.
A very good point, and very relevant point. Yes. That's as a president of GAPIM, that's again my concern. Kita kata GAPIM is a group of Islamic educators working very hard to improve the effectiveness and the meaningfulness of the Islamic education. Again, if we see the environment, because again, from the Islamic point of view, you have to have manhaj Rabbani. You have manhaj Rabbani, bi'ah solehah, and kudwah hasanah. Again, if you are talking about the bi'ah solehah, we have a lot of things to be done. We have a lot of things to address, but we strongly believe all those must start from the identification of the desired outcomes of education, which is again focusing on the Insan Rabbani and the 11. So by getting signal from there, you know what to address. You may be good in one aspect, but poor in certain aspect. So from here, we can address in terms of the content, the way we teach, the environment we provide to our students. So for improvement, we strongly believe that we have to start from the identification of where are we, where are all those learners in terms of the way or the journey to become Insan Rabbani, looking from the Islamic perspective. Then from there, we can chart, we can pave the way. From there, we can set the plan. From there, we can set the strategy together, not alone, together. We can set the strategy. How can we improve our service to the future generation in terms of equipping them with those important characteristics as Insan Rabbani. Allahu Alam.
I think this is the end of the questions. There is one question. Can we have Dr. Hood explain about AOTI, which you have explained in the end of your presentation? And so I'd like to thank Dr. Khudri Ahmad and IQRA Malaysia for co-organizing and giving the opportunity for IS to organize this Islamic education talk in IAIS Malaysia. So at the end, till we meet again, Tasbih Kifara wa Surat Al-Asr. Thank you very much for participating. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.